Hello, welcome to today's model showcase. Now this video is going to be a little different than the previous ones, where I walked through a particular model and kind of showed you all the details of the conversion aspects of it. This video is a little different. These Lizardmen, I don't play Age of Sigmar or any fantasy at this point, but I did acquire these Lizardmen models from a collection that I bought to get certain models for my Exodite army. I had to have the pterosaurs and I had to have the Starhecodon that I have in my Exodites, and all these guys came with it. Well, they kind of sat half painted, half not, in a box until I had the recent narrative campaign mission, the prologue. You can actually check that out in the narrative campaign playlist for Kegarek's Last Laugh. Now, I needed a primitive race to be the center of the battlefield and the thing they're fighting over, and these Lizardmen are perfect. Well, the only problem was these were only partially painted. Now, as a matter of fact, the thing I want to show you is that basically these 8 were painted, with the exception of his shield, which was missing. His shield arm was missing, and basically all their weapons were just primer black. These guys were either completely unpainted or just in primer black. So I had to get something together, and I also had some skinks that were, I had a few that I had kit bashed together because of the spare parts that were laying around. But I also had these pterodactyl versions that I wanted to, they're pterodactyl riders actually. I wanted to put them in somehow, but without using pterodons. So I had to come up with some way to paint these. Now, it's kind of hard to tell really at all whether, which one I actually did the painting on. If you look closely, you'll be able to see. But it won't be easy. Now, let me try to get two that are pretty much identical. Here we go. Yeah, it's almost identical. There is some variation. This is a little bit darker in the creases than this one. I didn't wash this one as much, but the colors look pretty spot on. Now, underside, I did change it a little bit, but of course, when you're looking down at the tabletop, you're not going to notice that. So, what I want to kind of review in this particular video is kind of how to take an army that you kind of like the color scheme for, but you don't necessarily have the paints for it. How can you, make it, if you will, make it happen? So, let's start first with the underside. Now, what I did not have a green that would really suit me well there, and actually I don't particularly like that choice of green. I would want it to be a little bit lighter. So what I did is I went ahead and took a light green I had and mixed it up with just a little bit of white and some tan. With that custom mix, I was able to get this nice light yellow, and then proceeded to paint their chins, belly, and the bottom of their tail. Now, I don't have whatever color was used for here in Games Workshop's line, but I did have Delta's turquoise, which is a lot lighter. Matter of fact, I left one there on purpose. You can see the difference. His arm is the bare turquoise. His body was covered with the same paint. That's the same paint color I used. But in order to get that same greenish look, I used a wash of Army Painter's green tone. I really like using their toners like this because it allows you to change the shade of the actual base coat and fill in the recesses. Now, here's a good example. This one That one's a lot darker in the lines. Bring that up closer. Okay. And the two colors are very, very, very close. Just by doing that wash. So if you've got, if you can recognize the base color, which was I could tell this was a turquoise, and you have some of that laying around, you can darken it up with a kind of a green tone, as an example, to get the color you want. And I could have used a blue tone, but that of course would have given me a different color of the turquoise, would have been more lean toward the blue shade. So that I spent, I don't know how, I forget, actually didn't bother counting the number of hours I spent doing this, but essentially painted up all of the bodies that needed to be painted, went ahead and did the base entirely in a earth brown, and they were completely missed. This was a black base with the turf already on it, so I just went ahead and painted the base. On these I went ahead and painted the base and then put the turf on myself because it was bare. Now, as far as the gold colors, the individual who had originally owned these had used some sort of it looks kind of like Balthazar gold. It's a dark gold. And I figured I'd go ahead and just use the Balthazar gold, which I had. And I think it's the same one. It's very, very close. But just ever so slightly darker, I think. So it's really close. But so again, just have to get close. When this is a unit on the tabletop, you're not going to really be able to tell. I am sure when you looked at the army for the first time, if you actually watched the battle report, or when you saw the opening shot of this squad, you didn't really notice that there were two different colors of bodies, let alone two completely different colors of their underside. So, aside from that, there's just some, with these models, I didn't want to bother with the bases, especially with 8th edition coming out. I do plan on using these, hopefully if I do get into Age of Sigmar or some fantasy, and I will be able to use these in subsequent narrative campaigns of one sort or another. The other model idea I wanted to kind of show you guys are the skinks. Now these skinks were already painted. I didn't do anything with these. So I'm not claiming anything here of the paint job, but these are actual pterodon riders with their spears or lances, and I wanted some sentries. I really liked the look of them. I thought it'd be really fitting. Well, I had some of these tree stumps laying around in my bits box. These two here are small, but nevertheless they're a tree stump, and realized that I could position them on the tree stump, kneeling, part way up, or in this case, sort of crawling up. So I just glued them in position, threw them on a 25mm base. I haven't based it or put turf or painted it yet. Actually ran out of time before the battle report. But they look very effective as to keep them upright, to make them look like they're standing. And these individual models do represent sentries, so they're not part of a unit that would be rank and file. So the stumps don't throw anything out of the ordinary there. But if they were like skirmishers, they could be running through a wrecked forest, bombed out, shelled out forest, and they're just near the tree stumps. So think about ways you can take models that may be in an inappropriate kind of the wrong pose, laying at the wrong, because he's going to be sitting on the pterodactyl like this. So I wanted him sitting up, more or less. See if you can figure out ways to do that with terrain on the base to re-angle them, give them a nice little pose for the model you're trying to accomplish. So I guess that's really what I wanted to kind of show off today. Not so much for like, here, look how great this is, but more, this has been keeping me busy for the last couple weeks, getting ready for that narrative mission. And I tell you, it does take some time going through. I had to fix several of them. Matter of fact, this guy's shield fell off again. Had to fix them. Had to actually put a different arm, different hand on. Oh, perfect. Yeah, there's a good. I forgot to put the green stuff on, the green tone on his hand. you can see the difference, stark difference between his hand and his arm. But anyway, putting the I had to put a new hand on here because he had a broken sword arm, so I had to use a spear there. Had to do the same thing here, fix this to his broken spear arm, or sorry, broken sword arm. So there's a lot of repairs to do. I had to actually replace his arm completely with a shield, from a different model kit. So there's a lot of repair that had to go through this as well. So it took a little more time. It wasn't just painting, but it was fixing, and just in time to get it ready for that one battle. Now I think another channel would ask a question about, does it help to paint to a sketch, a deadline or whatever? And sometimes it does. I tell you, this time it helped me get them done, but I did notice that there are some things I would do differently if I actually had a little more time to let my natural thought process work its way out. I would have done something just a little bit different, but nothing material. What's kind of neat though is I have a small Lizardmen force, at least, whether it's for narrative or even a small skirmish of a Age of Sigmar type. All right, so just want to kind of show you what I've been up to and let you see the results of some of the work I've been doing and a way that I went about copying someone else's paint scheme on my unpainted half. You'll notice that I've got the green turtle shell shields here. These two shields, I didn't have any purples at all, so I couldn't really duplicate the color purple here. You will get in that situation sometimes. Alright, well, thanks for sticking around. I hope this wasn't a waste of your time, but I just thought you'd show off kind of what I have been working on in the hobby hours that I have had between campaign games. Alright, I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.